All right, guys, what's up? It is almost 2 o'clock here, Monday afternoon. We got it's called a bank holiday down here in Australia. So everybody was off, and it's the King's birthday. So I don't know how much you take pride in that, but thanks to the King and the Queen and the Royals down here in Australia, we get work off. Also, you see that I got a bit of a shiner from sparring Saturday morning with one of my clients. And yeah, my girlfriend doesn't like it. She's like, "Why do you spar? You're an old man. You shouldn't be getting punched in the head." I'm like, "Well, we're not trying to kill each other." So that's how I reason with it. It's been a busy weekend in boxing. So on the stream today, I want to talk about what's going on currently in the sport. I want to cover also, I'll first talk about the Blair Cobbs and Adrian Broner fight because I was covering it and I live streamed it. I was doing a live stream analysis. If you guys tuned in, thank you. I got the scoring wrong. I don't know if you guys watched that fight. Blair Cobbs won a unanimous decision. Two of the judges gave Blair, I think it was like 8 out of the 12, or like 7 out of the 10, or maybe 6, 8 out of the 10 rounds. I actually had it closer than what the judges said, but who am I? AB lost a tooth. I didn't think AB looked that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like he had flashes. We saw flashes, but he's 34 years old, and this is what happens to aging boxers. It sucks, but you see the skills deteriorate, and in fights as they get older, we see flashes of what those skills used to be. Man, I still love AB's left hook. His left hook, it didn't land a lot, but when he throws it, man, it's one of my favorite left hooks, especially in his prime in the game. And his skill set, at the highest level, obviously he's not 21 anymore. Kudos to Blair Cobbs, biggest win of his career. I actually owe a guy an apology because they were reporting that AB lost a tooth, and I initially said that was horseshit, but AB lost a tooth. So we'll start there. Here's he posted this today. He got that he got an upgrade. So he lost a tooth when he got dropped in the second, and multiple teeth were chipped. So he got all those fixed. Let's play that knockdown. Give me 1 second while I find it. We got to talk about Garcia getting arrested, which is wild. But where's AB at losing that tooth? Fight day. Right here. Here's a knockdown. So if you guys missed it, this is where Cobbs knocked him down. Blair was throwing all night long from southpaw this wild overhand left. He would lunge, and Cobbs is awkward with his style, and he only landed that overhand left flush a few times. One of them was that knockdown punch that sent some teeth flying, and he was the busier fighter. He out from the punch stats, he was throwing more, but he was missing more, and AB wasn't doing enough, but he was cruising in a typical Broner fashion. He felt like he was doing enough. And I got to be honest with you, man. I watched the fight. I would not have been shocked if they would have given that decision to AB. I do not agree that it was as wide of a margin as the judges said. I thought if you go watch the live stream, I was marking the rounds down. I erased the board. Yeah, I erased the board. But, man, I had AB winning the first round, obviously losing that second 10-8 because he gets dropped. I thought if anything, it was like 6-4, but, getting knocked down the second, you lose 2 points there. So 10-8, but he fought well after he got dropped as well. And I wasn't listening to the commentary because I was live streaming, but everything I was reading and everything I've read on the boxing news online stuff were just bashing Broner. And it's one of my beef with boxing, man. The boxing media journalists are fucking scumbags. It's like, just because a fighter loses a fight, that doesn't mean that there isn't anything good to say about the fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you lose a fight doesn't mean that there's nothing good to write about your performance. I thought AB was in good shape. I thought that his output was low, but it wasn't because his cardio wasn't there. I just think that he made a miscalculation. I think it came down to a miscalculation on his end on how active he should have been. But I loved his high guard, classic Broner style, man. He fought the whole fight with that high guard. And earlier in the fight, he was pitching his jab. He was trying to poke the jab. And then the adjustment he made was he was faking the jab to the body, landing the jab to the body, and then going the right hand over the top. He was doing some good stuff. But like I said, the media, the boxing people just buried him. And, rightfully so. He invites all that stuff, the shit talk and all that good stuff. But you always hear me say, I think that's good for the sport. Moving forward, that's the last I'm going to talk about, the Cobbs Broner fight. I want to talk about Ryan Garcia, man. And I'm going to play you the video that TMZ posted. So this is a video. You guys probably have seen this already. If you're following us on Instagram, Boxing News Today, or Facebook, Boxing News Today, you would have seen this. And this is Garcia getting escorted out of a hotel in Beverly Hills by the cops. I guess 12 units were on site. Felony vandalism, bashing a hotel room, smashing it up. But something that's very confronting are some of the sort of facts that TMZ didn't report about Garcia. He got arrested with a motorcycle helmet on, and what he was doing was bashing his head against the walls. And this is very alarming if you're a Ryan Garcia fan, if you're a boxing fan. True fans of the sport, even if you're not a Garcia fan, a true fan of the sport wouldn't want to see that young kid in any trouble. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you cheer in and whoever he fights, you don't want, as a human, you don't want to see a young kid with his whole life in front of him, with struggling this much. And I don't think it's an act. He gets arrested, felony vandalism. I wouldn't be shocked if we hear in the next few days that he's probably going to go to rehab. Substance does seem to play a part, but mental health is a real thing. Mental health is a real thing for everybody, no matter what generation you are. When you start looking at the consequences of, and this is me just trying to, piece together and reason with it, my knowledge of the sport, coaching boxing, having boxed as a young person. I played American football for 13 years. So I'm also a health coach. I'm very aware of head trauma, consequences of head trauma. And as you read more and more and understand what concussions do, what that does to the neurology of our brain, it changes literally neural pathways in our brain when we get concussions and constant head trauma. And some of the consequences of that is behavioral changes, addiction, impulsive behavior. A lot of these things that we're seeing in Ryan Garcia you could connect to head trauma. And I don't know if anyone's talking about that. I know nobody's writing about that. In boxing, journalists don't like talking about it. Fighters don't want to talk about it, but it needs to be spoken about, especially when you have a young kid in his mid-20s who just coming off the biggest fight of his career, and you start seeing this erratic behavior. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that some of this behavior is due to head trauma. And as always, I call him Unc, Bill Haney has something to say. I'm going to play that for you guys. Real every time. Now, there are several boxing outlets saying that Ryan Garcia was apprehended last night. It's a sapsucker by the name Ken Woods that works with Boxing 24 News that never gives us the news we can use. So let me tell you what happened. They say Ryan was arrested with a motorcycle helmet on upstairs, crashing into a couch at the Waldorf Astoria. They say the boy was bumping in that shit throughout the hallway. So I'm going to ask that sapsucker, King Woods, give us a real report. Is Ryan Garcia on everything but air and water? Yeah, and he's obviously, Haney's referencing why, love or hate that guy as well. I mean, he's really challenging the boxing media to talk about the issues Garcia is having and to write about it, whether drugs, alcohol, and you can't have a conversation if you don't talk about it. I'm doing that here. Obviously, Bill's motivations are different from mine. He has a bone to pick still with Garcia. We don't know how the drug test, how that's going to play out. Will that decision be overturned to a no contest? The issue with that is, he comes in missing weight. He pops for tainted supplements or PEDs, Ostarine, whatever, however you want to frame that, whether you're on Garcia or indifferent like myself. The facts are Haney lost that fight. He got beat up, and we saw that. Now, was that a direct consequence due to Ryan cheating? Maybe. There's no way for us to tell the level. Only Ryan knows the level. The only facts are the outcome, and Devin took damage. And so I understand the frustration Haney's coming at, and both with the boxing media and everything else. But we'll see how this plays out. It's a developing story. It's fight week, guys. Huge fights coming up, man. It's wild to think that on the same day, we know the card we got Frank Martin versus Gervonta Davis for the 135 WBA belt. The fight right before that, we got David Benavidez's introduction into the light heavyweight division, the light heavyweight division against Alexander Vostok. I'm excited to see what Benavidez looks like in that fight. But also we got in Puerto Rico, Subriel Matias versus Liam Perro. That's such an intriguing fight. The landscape in the 140-pound division is going to look a lot clearer. I mean, down here in Australia, there's a buzz about Perro, man. It's tough to bet against either one of these guys. We do know Matias, his stellar 20-1 record. We know he has a 100% knockout to win ratio. We know about Matias's only loss. He went to avenge that by knockout. And we know about what Liam Perro could do. He's a tough, gritty Aussie. Every time he's stepped up, he's gotten the job done. This will obviously be his biggest step up in competition. The detractors, the comments, negative comments I've been reading from you guys about Matias is the fact that his strength of schedule isn't as strong. He's overhyped. He's overrated. All we could say in a week time when we're doing this video, the fight would have already taken place, and a lot of these questions will have been answered. I'm excited to see that fight, man. I'm shocked to see Liam as a 6-1 underdog. That's wild to me. I'd like to know how my own personal stance on that fight is. You would be ill-advised to not allow Matias's record and his statistics that jump off the page. You'd be wrong to not let that impact your decision. How could you not be impressed by Subriel Matias's record, how he does his things? The unfortunate events that happened with the Dadashev fight, and people, not all of his opponents, Juneteenth, not all of his opponents came out alive, man. One of his opponents lost his life due to fighting Matias. That has to be in the back of every opponent's mind moving forward who fights Matias. This has to be in the back of Liam Perro's mind who's fighting Matias. You can't fight a guy and not have that affect you. And only Liam knows what Liam thinks, and we'll see. We'll see what he looks like. But these guys are professionals for a reason, and Matias is sloppy. What don't you like about Matias? I mean, I know the knock on Subriel is that he takes a lot of shots, but guys, you got to remember he's a knockout artist. You're not going to be able to knock guys out if you're not putting yourself in a position of danger. So he does get hit. He has a chin on him. We'll see. Liam's going to test that chin. With Liam's style, he's not going to take a step back. Perro's going to come forward. A lot will be told in the first few rounds and the first few exchanges to see what happens. You have a guy like Perro. It's important for boxers to have game plans. But if you have a guy in Perro who's never lost before, so he's never had to tap into his plan B. You know what I'm saying? Plan A has always worked. Plan A, his strategy, own the center of the ring, set the jab up, lead with power, get your opponent out of there. He's never been, knocked out. He's never lost. He doesn't know how to lose. So he's never had to revert to he's never had to make these fight adjustments that are required for championship fighters who get tested, have adversity within the fight, and then have to resort to plan B to see if they can overcome. We haven't seen this in Perro. And sometimes think about the Errol Spence, Bud Crawford fight. EJ didn't have a plan B. He never had to use a plan B. He never had to resort to changing his philosophy mid-fight, and that came back to bite him against Crawford because, in my opinion, I bring it anybody who asks, one of the biggest disappointments in that fight was Errol Spence's coaching game plan, was the Derek, not having a plan B for Errol when he kept getting popped, how they didn't go over that, obviously, in fight camp. EJ just kept going straight forward, walking into Bud's buzzsaw, and he paid for it. We'll see if Pero, more than likely, he's going to get tagged, and more than likely, we're going to see, A, how tough he is, and B, if he's going to be able to avoid that power, and we'll see. I'm excited about it. He opens wide that don't work when you step up in class. And that's the knock on Subriel, is the step up in class. But, guys, this is a beautiful part about the sport. I'm not going to sit here and I never, if you watch a lot of the stuff I do, I never sit back and focus on the nuanced unanswers of fighters. I focus on the facts, on what they've done. And so I'm going to me focusing on that he opens up and he leaves himself to get countered. He's never, he has a 100% knockout to win ratio. He's an exciting knockout artist. That's what I feel is the important bit here. And we'll see this weekend, guys. Let me check what times these are airing, because, the Tank Davis fight's an American fight, but Puerto Rico's it's probably the same time schedule, isn't it? Give me 1 second. So we got Tank Davis fighting Frank Martin. Gary Antoine Russell's fighting Puello at 10 a.m. Carlos Ademas is fighting at 11 a.m. David Benavidez is fighting Alexander Usyk. Alexander Vosdik at noon, and Tank's fighting at 1 o'clock. That's Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. Liam Pero and Matias are fighting at the same exact time. So we're going to have to run split screens. We're going to have to watch them at the same time. Fans overrate boxers like Tank, who's fought someone good. Yeah, fans who – the thing with the fans and how we overrate fighters is that we can only judge them on their performances. A lot of times fans jump on guys based off of who they fought or who they haven't fought, rather than focusing on the positive sides of who they actually fought. You can't. It's kind of like a tiresome conversation to have for me to bash a guy about fighters that they haven't fought. I'd much rather just focus on the performance of what they've done. Facts. Fans overrate boxers like Tank who haven't fought someone good. When you look at Tank not fighting anybody in the top 5, one of you guys mentioned this to me today, which was cool, in the comments of the video we just posted, and I wasn't aware of that. And so this is Tank has been cherry picking for a minute, and he's only beaten one actual fighter for the belt, Frank Martin's night. So people are cheering for Frank, but yeah, Tank hasn't fought anyone in the top 5 in the world. Frank Martin's ranked number 5 in the world rankings of 135 pounds. So this would be a step up. But you guys will say that Frank Martin isn't the competition that Tank should be fighting. But I'm excited about that fight. I'm going to do a breakdown. If you guys, I just released the video on it's up right now on the page. This one. Dude, these ads are crazy. So this is up on the page after we get off live. Watch the newest video. It's that one. I'm talking about Tank. Talking about his resume, what he's done in the fight, in his career, etc. What else do we got today going on? We got Broner, we got Garcia, we got Pero. Guys, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're joining in these lives every day. I got to fill you guys in what's going on in the boxing world, because if you guys leave it up to the boxing sites, they're not going to tell you. The only thing people are talking about today, let's go to the 2 most popular ones, Boxing News. They're talking about Teofimo Lopez, Frank Martin must disrespect Tank. You're just getting the major headlines from Tank, and some people bashing Ryan Garcia, detained in hospital, voices distress. So, yeah, stay tuned, subscribe, share. I appreciate all the feedback. Guys, we don't have to agree on everything. That's why I love this platform, and we don't have to hate on each other either. I learn a lot from you guys. There's by no way am I going to sit here and say I know everything about the sport. I've been involved in boxing since I was 7, but there's always something to learn, and I appreciate you guys teaching me. A 30-year-old prospect who has never fought for a world title before a step up for Tank, that should tell you about his resume. Look, I get all that, and we're gonna a lot of these answers are gonna be a lot of these questions will be answered this weekend about how good Frank Martin is, how actually good is Tank Davis. I mean, watch. There's no way anybody could deny though the skill set of Gervonta. How many fighters in the world could brawl, could counter, could be technical when they want? How many fighters in the world have that uppercut that he has? Disregard his opponents. Just watching a fighter's skill set. Yeah, he's 5'5", smaller fighter. But when you watch him go about his business, when you look at his career resume, when you see that he's been boxing since he was 4 or 5 years old, it's been nothing but effort, all the hours and years in the gym. That has to count for something. So when I'm talking about fighters, the last thing I'm really going to think about if I'm going to criticize a guy is who they haven't fought. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the bigger picture. What got them there? The effort, the roadmap, the journey that is allowing us as fans to even talk about a guy who doesn't even know we exist. Gervonta Davis doesn't even know any of us exist, doesn't even care, and we're talking about him. And that's a point that's a valid point to talk about and showcase the credibility of effort that kid has put in for us to be talking about him. So rather than focusing on the negative, I'm always going to focus on the positive with any fighter. And but I understand he gets a lot of hate. I get all that. I don't agree with it's important for us to not judge a man by all of his flaws, but he's far from perfect. The stuff he's done outside of the ring, his arrests. I just hope that he remains cool, calm, and collective. Hopefully he's sorted out his issues mentally. Hopefully he's seen some therapists. All that aside, he's a hell of a boxer, and it's good to see him back in the ring. He hasn't fought since April of 2023. He's shelved. He's 29 years old. Losing that year, we lost a year as fans. That bothers me, though. I wish he'd be a little bit more active. Shakur, Loma, Teo, Haney, those fights. Yeah, well, let's see. Shakur, belt holder. Loma, belt holder. Teo and Haney, those fights, the different division right now. We can only talk about Dennis Baron. So the belt holders at 135, guys. Dennis Baranchik, fucking Lomachenko, Shakur, and Tank, 135. I mean, I'd love to see Tank move up and fight all these guys. Nobody's standing on a mountain saying that Tank Davis's resume is the best it could possibly be. But is any fighters? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was getting into it with a comment, somebody in the boxing blog a couple days ago about this. Like, what fighter has a resume that the fans and the haters would say, oh, that fighter's fought everybody? We're always going to be able to find holes in somebody's game. We're always going to be able to find areas that the fighter isn't perfect in. I mean, as a fan of sport, I love fighters. I love champions. I like teams who dominate. So it's something that I think is in our human behavior to kind of be attracted and gravitate towards excellence. Who doesn't like a world champion? Who doesn't like a team? Think about, I always go back to the 90s Bulls teams, those Michael Jordan teams. Who doesn't like, I was a Cavs fan. I fucking hated the Bulls. I never cheered for them. Being raised in Northeast Ohio, they broke Cleveland's heart every year. But looking back, you have to admire what they did. They were great, one of the greatest teams of all time, and they did it time and time again. So on that note, I got to run. I promised my girlfriend a walk. So she's going to talk shit about my black eye. This is going to be black by tomorrow from sparring. But you guys are awesome. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you. Comment. Be good.